Your news is sponsored by weapons manufacturers, and nobody told you. 60% of the time, UK media appears to simply not bother disclosing defense sector ties when covering defense stories. That number comes from media transparency analyses, and it should make your blood run cold. The villain here is not some shadowy cabal. It is a system. UK legacy media outlets sit inside a web of defense advertising revenue. Think tank sponsorships funded by Bay Systems, Raytheon, and Thales, and editorial board members who rotate through defense advisory roles like a revolving door. In my analysis, this is not accidental. It is structurally incentivized. These are the same companies now pouring billions into AI inference clusters for autonomous targeting, predictive intelligence pipelines, and real-time surveillance mesh networks. When the journalist writing about how Britain needs more AI-powered border drones works for a publication bankrolled by the company selling those drones, that is not reporting. That is laundering procurement lobbying through editorial credibility. And they appear to get away with it 60% of the time. Let me give you 3 reasons this is worse than you think. First, the inference pipeline problem. Modern defense AI does not work like traditional weapons. It runs on continuously updated models. We are talking real-time fine-tuning on classified datasets, retrieval-augmented generation systems pulling from intelligence databases, and latency-sensitive edge deployment on drones and autonomous vehicles. The public needs accurate, independent reporting to understand what these systems actually do, because procurement decisions worth tens of billions of pounds hinge on whether voters and MPs grasp the difference between a pattern-matching algorithm and an autonomous kill chain. When 60% of the coverage has undisclosed ties to the sellers, the public is flying blind on the most consequential technology decisions of the decade. Second, the RAG accountability gap. Here is the darkest irony. We now have retrieval-augmented generation tools that can cross-reference any journalist, any outlet, and any funding source in seconds. You can build a pipeline today that ingests companies' house filings, charity commission data, and defense contract registries, then flags every article where a financial link exists but is not disclosed. The technology to enforce transparency is trivially available. Nobody in UK media appears to be deploying it on themselves. The tools exist. The will does not. Third, the narrative capture effect. Defense companies do not need to write the articles. They just need to set the Overton window. When a majority of undisclosed coverage frames AI surveillance as inevitable and necessary, the weights of public opinion shift before anyone notices the training data was poisoned. This is not metaphorical. It is the same mechanism as data poisoning in machine learning. Feed biased inputs, get biased outputs. Except the model being trained is the British public, and the loss function is democratic accountability. If you are still watching this, you already know the mainstream channels will never say it this clearly. Subscribe. We are not going to stop pulling this thread. Now, the strongest counterargument is obvious. People will say media outlets have editorial independence regardless of advertising or sponsorship ties. And sure, editorial firewalls exist on paper. But a firewall that fails 60% of the time is not a firewall. It is a suggestion. In cybersecurity, we would call that a critical vulnerability and patch it immediately. In media, they call it business as usual and expect you to trust them anyway. The evidence suggests the structural incentives overwhelm the editorial safeguards, and the absence of disclosure is the proof. So here is where we land. This is not really about journalism. It is about whether a democracy can make informed decisions about autonomous weapons, AI-powered mass surveillance, and predictive policing when the information pipeline is contaminated at the source. The UK is making generational bets on defense AI right now. Billions in procurement, new autonomous systems doctrine, expanded intelligence sharing agreements built on AI interoperability. Every one of those decisions depends on an informed public. And 60% of the time, that public appears to be getting information filtered through undisclosed financial ties to the companies profiting from those exact decisions. So I will leave you with this. If your media will not even tell you who is paying them, Should you trust them to tell you the truth about the weapons those payments fund?